Before you start this podcast, I need you to know that we were having technical difficulties. So Nick's audio is not ideal, but instead of not having a podcast this week, we're just going to go ahead and release this one. Do enjoy. I'm Joseph.
I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Oh my God, good. How are you?
Okay.
So much going on.
Yeah. Well, you're back from Switzerland.
Yeah, as of last night.
You were there for the Locarno Film Festival.
The 77th. Yes.
Do you want to talk about that experience?
Oh, we're jumping right into that. Okay. Well, I've been to Zurich. I had like a day-long stay there years ago, but this is my first time going to Locarno and this film festival. It is difficult to get in and out of.
How so?
Well, so my flight there, it didn't help that my flight there, we had an emergency landing in Chicago that took 3 hours. I've never been on a plane where that's happened. And there was some technical issue going on with the plane. And there was some woman that kept having, it seemed like major blood pressure issues and passed out several times during the course of this flight, where we had crew and doctors on the plane running around.
Oh.
That's the first time I heard an announcement. Like, are there any doctors on the plane? I'm like, oh. And it was right after we took off. I'm like, oh, God. But yeah, so then
did you miss your connecting flight?
I did, and then I had to be stuck in the Vienna airport for 6 extra hours till the next flight went to Milan. And then from Milan, I had to take a 2-hour train, 2 trains, to get to Locarno. So I got in very late. So I was very irritated. It's also very hot there. It felt like I was in Miami. I was wet the whole time when I was outside my hotel room. But that said, it was a very quiet and peaceful experience, and I did quite enjoy my time. I saw 26 films while I was there, which really isn't a lot for me, but I wasn't there for the whole period of the festival. I reviewed all but 3 of the competition films and a couple others. And a lot of great pasta and pizza, as you can imagine. I came back with some nice chocolate for you. And yeah.
Do you want to run down your favorites?
I just did a top 5. So there were quite a few films in the competition that I did not like at all. And I do have a review coverage for... The 3 I did not review were fine, but I actually did review my worst picks of the festival too. But for now, so I only have 5 that I think were worth really talking about. At number 5, I have a film called Moon by Kurgwin Ayub, who is, I believe, Iraqi-Austrian. I saw her first film, Sunny. Both her features have been produced by Ulrich Seidel, so that should tell you something there. But this is a really interesting film. It's about an Austrian woman who's like an MMA martial arts fighter who's kind of aged out of her career, and she decides to be a trainer, which isn't going well. And then she gets this kind of mysterious job offer to teach these 3 Jordanian sisters living in isolation in this mansion in Amman or outside Amman, to train them, and it turns out they're kind of being held captive there against her will. So it actually has some very nice tense moments, great lead performance, but then it's a film that also doesn't know how to end. Like the last 10 minutes, I'd say, were almost kind of ruinous to what's come before, and it just like falls off a swift cliff. But that being said, it's still pretty impressive. She's a very young filmmaker. At number 4, the film that actually won the Golden Leopard was a Lithuanian film. There were 2 Lithuanian films in competition, but this one won by Sole Biluvate. And notably, the president of the jury was Jessica Hausner, who's also Austrian. And while I was watching this, I kept thinking of a couple Jessica Hausner films, even her last film, Club Zero, which I like this better than Club Zero. But it's about a pair of two young girls. They're like 13 in some industrial backwater town in Lithuania that think that they can enroll in this modeling school and get a contract out of there, and then of course do terrible, horrible things to their bodies. One of them, uh, one of them was born with a birth defect, so she can't walk that well, and everybody makes fun of her. But the other one is able to buy a tapeworm pill off the dark web. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Apparently, you can.
I mean, I know people would take or ingest tapeworms to try to lose weight. But...
So it's this pill where the larvae are inside.
Oh gosh!
And of course, this girl gets really sick. But I'm like, that was disgusting to watch. But yeah, it won. It wasn't to me, in my opinion, it wasn't the best film, but a solid 3 out of 5 for me. At number 3, I have Youth, Hard Times. It's the second in a trilogy of films by Wong Bing. The first played at Cannes in 2023, was called Youth Spring. And then I'm about to see the third chapter, which is competing in Venice, Youth Homecoming. This is nearly 4 hours, and the theater that I saw it in was not comfortable. The Palexpo Theater in Locarno, there are these hardback chairs, not ideal for a 4-hour documentary. And I wore out the backside of my jeans at this festival. My pockets are coming undone. But again, it's a lot darker than Youth was. And the Youth is, I thought, also pretty depressing. But basically, he shot for 5 years between 2014 and 2019 in these textile factories and these young, mostly teens and 20-somethings, and kind of the lives they lead. This one's set mostly in 2015 and depicts kind of their world on a wire and all kinds of terrible things happening and trying to advocate for themselves, which really goes nowhere. But clearly, if you've seen the first one, you'll probably want to see this. At number 2 is the new Hong Sang-soo, By the Stream, which, the argument about Sang-soo is a lot of his stuff always feels the same. He previously won Locarno in 2015 for Right Now, Wrong Then. This won a Best Performance Award for Kim Min-hee, who, of course, is his partner and has starred in many of his films for years now. This I thought was kind of touching. It has a few really nice moments, a lot of course, regular players for Hong Sang-soo. If you like him, this is something you are definitely going to seek out. And by far my favorite, which might be in my top 10 of the year, is The Sparrow in the Chimney by the Zerker brothers. This one directed by just Ramon Zerker, a pair of Swiss brothers. Their previous films were The Strange Little Cat and The Girl and the Spider. Both films were also really liked. It's a thematic animalistic theme trilogy, but the score it has this like haunting electro score that I fell in love with. Maren Eggert, who is this German actor that I love, is so good. It's about these bitchy, dysfunctional women that just hate each other, stuck in a house for a celebration where no one's happy. So it's right in my alley. And it was giving me Ingmar Bergman, particularly Cries and Whispers. So, I mean, if any of those things appeal to you, I think you'll dig this movie. I was kind of saddened that this didn't get anything. But I guess maybe it's just a specific taste.
Was there one movie that you thought was just atrocious?
I hated this film called Weightless.
What was it about?
It is about this man. He's 65 and his wife dies, and then he's an ethnomusicologist. His wife dies, and then he gets automatic amnesia and can't even recognize his daughter. And so then he sifts through these old diaries and artifacts from his life, and he relives this one glorious summer where he met the woman that would become his wife, and we're treated to a lot of hokey flashbacks. His daughter is mooning about like a despondent vampire because daddy won't remember her. It's a debut, I believe, by a woman who has served as a film director, particularly for Pietro Marcello, his first 2 films. I have to say I really had a hard time with that. I really didn't like it. there were a couple others too, but that jumps out as probably my least favorite.
Well, would you go back to Locarno?
Yeah, in fact, the people that invited me said that they would love to have me again. So who knows? But
Isn't it nice to be wanted?
yes.
What else would you like to say about Locarno?
I mean, it is one of the. It is very European art house for a film festival, but it's also still quite notable. So to me, it's a big deal, and to be able to get to go was an honor. And it's they invited me back. I think I've said this before, back in 2017, but they said they'd only give me 3 nights. I mean, yeah, by day 3 is probably when I started feeling human again. So after that journey there, but yeah, I liked it.
Moving on, there's this TikToker who I saw this video, I think over a week ago, but she works like customer service, and she made this video talking about how she's telling the ladies that they need to be mindful of their makeup, like don't do too much. And so she says, like look at me, I didn't wear a lot of makeup today. I'm being very demure, very mindful. So now I've noticed the past few days, like it's gone viral, and like lots of people are posting things saying very demure, very mindful. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't understand why this is a thing. Because I think that the ladies, because I did watch the video before everyone started posting this shit, and I think for her it made sense, like what she was saying, and it was cute. Mm-hmm. But the way I see a lot of people using it, I don't even understand what they think they're doing. Which also makes me think, like, how people like to say no tea, no shade. And it's like, I don't think you know what you're saying, because T stands for the truth.
Yeah.
So like when you say no tea, it means that you're not telling the truth. Like, I don't understand. I don't know. For some reason, this whole very demure, very mindful thing is rubbing me the wrong way. But moving on.
Well, yes, but it probably means they don't know what you meant. or the context doesn't apply.
Yeah, I wonder if the context is escaping people, because the way it's being used in a lot of like these various iterations. I mean, I even see brands like making memes using this language, and it just, I don't know. Anyway, over the past week, I discovered a YouTube channel called Red Tree Crime, and they basically post a bunch of interrogation surveillance videos. Mm-hmm. So it'll be like a 30-minute video where you're just watching an interrogation interview. Of course, these interviews are hours long and they get edited down. But, and then the person, there's someone narrating them to give sort of like key elements to the story that we don't hear during the interview. But I have to say, I probably watched like 12 hours worth of these videos. And in particular, there's one about corrupt cops. That's like a 4-hour compilation. And I sat for 4 hours and was like glued to the screen. Mm-hmm. It was very upsetting and troubling. I do have to say, thank goodness for body cams. Thank goodness that these cops have to wear body cams, because I would say 9 out of the 10 situations where cops get caught in these precarious situations, they always say, 9 out of 10 times they say that it's something to the effect of like, it's not like the old days because now we're being recorded. Or like when they arrest other cops and they're wearing the body cam, they say things like, I don't want to be doing this. And it's just so alarming that you're literally admitting that you would not do your job if it weren't for the fact that you're being recorded.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 of them.
Oh yeah.
Say this. They say,
because it curbs their power.
I have no choice. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be doing this. A cop was caught drunk driving, got into a car accident, literally rear-ended someone. And then you have another cop who works on the force with him saying, well, I don't want to have to do this, but he blew like 3 times over the legal limit. He rear-ended someone who was sitting at a stoplight doing like 50 miles an hour. And you're saying that you don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or they downplay to like reckless driving.
Wow. So, I mean, I think the reason I was glued to the TV screen is because I was like getting inflamed a lot. Like, this is outrageous. Like, these power trips that people have, and that, like, you're supposed to be enforcing the law, but you think you're above it. And that doesn't go together. That's like drug addicts getting high off their own supply. Mm-hmm. And the Notorious B.I.G. told us to not do that. Oh. But moving on, there isn't much in the restaurant section. You didn't mention anything you had in Switzerland.
But... well, I had several. Well, I only had like one meal a day, but I had some good carbonara, spaghetti alla vongola with clams, where they, I don't understand really why I need to have the actual clam shells with the clam. I mean, it's probably easier for cooking it, but in the pasta, like I got to dig all that shit out. Oh my God, and when one of those is shattered and you get it in your teeth. Anyway, yeah, and I had a diavola pizza, a couple prosciutto e fungi pizzas. It's a very, Switzerland is a very interesting place because it's heavily, very Italian adjacent, obviously, but also there's the alternative language primarily is German.
Oh.
So I would have waiters, wait staff being like, "What do you speak? German, Italian? Like English is the third often."
But most people speak English.
No.
Oh.
I would say a couple times. The place where I bought you that fancy chocolate, no. But which is fine. We have different ways to communicate. But yeah, it just is an interesting. It feels very European cosmopolitan there.
I only wanted to mention coffee bean and tea leaf, CBTL. I used to really like coffee bean. I first discovered them like in the early 2000s. And I used to love buying their chocolate powder mix, and I'd mix it with my coffee. Anyway, a lot of stores have closed. Their app, like they just cannot compete with Starbucks. There's very little incentive to try to find a coffee bean, and they have a rewards program, but because there aren't as many, it's always kind of like, there actually is one pretty close to us, but it's not easy to get into. Anyway, today I ordered, they have an iced brown sugar latte with boba. Mm-hmm. That has to be the most disgusting coffee drink I've ever ordered. It tasted like if you took water, like 1 part water, 1 part condensed milk, mixed it together, poured it over crushed ice, and then added brown sugar boba. So like the boba tasted like it was super sweet, but it also tasted like it had been sitting around forever. It had a texture that was really unappealing.
Yeah, I didn't like I had a sip of yours, and I didn't like that. It tasted like bad horchata to me, but.
And it didn't. I mean, it's supposed to be a latte, so there should have been a shot in there. I didn't taste any espresso in my iced latte. I was really disappointed, and that shit is $7. Mm-hmm. That was Coffee Bean. I'm gonna need y'all to work on that. And then I ordered it. And by the time we walked from the order area to the pickup area, it was done.
Yeah.
So I think that they either there's no way that they hit it with a shot of espresso. And considering how terrible the boba was. I mean, I just don't know if they have these pre-made. I don't know what. Disgusting. Anyway, films released we didn't cover. My Penguin Friend.
Well, there are a lot of them we didn't cover this week. I've seen this. I don't think it's very good, but if you like corny, sappy humans having relationships with animals, particularly birds, you might like this film. David Sherman directs. It stars Jean Reno and Adriana Barraza. Yeah.
Caligula, the ultimate cut.
So I saw this at a screening where Malcolm McDowell showed up to speak afterwards last year, which was excellent. Of course, the very famous original Caligula was cut by its director Tinto Brass with a bunch of porn stars scenes. But anyway, this is supposedly the definitive cut with footage that was found somewhere in Rome a couple of years ago and remastered. If highly recommended. Love McDowell, Helen Mirren, John Gielgud. Peter O'Toole is so over the top bitchy in this. So yeah, highly recommended. If you are in a city where this is playing in a theater near you, I would seek this out.
Close to You.
I think we both kind of passed. Elliot Page stars in this film, directed by Dominic Savage, and you watched the trailer.
He just seems insufferable, and I feel like I already know this. Like, yeah, watching the trailer, I felt like I already know what this movie is. I don't need to watch it.
I mean, I'm sure I'll watch it eventually. It's just like I had too much going on this week to make time.
I don't think I'll ever feel like that to put this movie on. But The King Tide.
This played at TIFF in 2023, directed by Christian Sparks, and I think it's about a girl with special powers. Clayne Crawford and Frances Fisher. It's always nice to see Frances in the film.
Next, Mountains.
This is set in Little Haiti in Miami, and it's directed by Monica Sorrell. I believe it was nominated for an Indie Spirit Award or 2, but it sounded like a solid drama and would be something I'd be interested in catching up with.
Red Island.
I will see this. It's directed by Robin Campillo, who I'm a fan of, who did BPM. I probably like his, as a director, his film Eastern Boys more than that. But this was highly touted to be at a major film festival somewhere last year and just didn't go anywhere. But I believe it's set in Madagascar, and I will watch this eventually.
Lastly, Rob Peace.
This I saw out of Sundance this year, 2024. I think it's the second film directed by Chiwetel Ejiofor, if I'm correct. But it's based on a true story. Chiwetel's in it. It's about a kid who goes to Yale. Is that right? Anyway, he apparently this really smart kid, but he tries to have his father. He devotes his life to having his father helping his father get out of prison, and then in order to kind of help finance that, he's brilliant, but for money turns to drug dealing and ends up being shot and killed. I was surprised that you passed on this because your girl Mary J. Blige is in it.
I didn't know anything about this.
Well, I sent you a list of things and you came back and said you weren't interested.
Well, then I shot you down. All right, projects of interest. Madden.
Nicolas Cage is going to be playing Madden.
Who's Madden?
He's the sports commentator.
Oh.
Who died recently.
Oh.
But it's going to be directed by David O. Russell, who, I don't know. David O. is kind of a mixed bag for me as a director, but every now and then he does something interesting. We reviewed his last film, Amsterdam, which was a bit of a mess. But that reminds me, I've been wanting to rewatch I Heart Huckabees for a long time. Anyway, but yes, Cage.
And I Can't Help It.
Park Chan-wook is, I guess, about to start production on this new title, which is a remake of Costa Gavras' The Axe, the 2005 film. So that should be of interest to all.
Unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. Gena Rowlands died.
Gena, I believe.
I'm sorry, Gena Rowlands died.
That's okay. I grew up I don't think I knew that was how her name was supposed to be said until probably the last 5 years. But
I'll be honest, when I saw she died, I wasn't sure who she was, and then I was looking up her movies, and then I did see that she's Gloria, which we reviewed on the podcast, and then I forgot. So then when I asked you, you're like, "Oh, well, she's Gloria," but
to me, like major fixture of American cinema. Like Roger Ebert said something about her that always resonated with me. Is like, because she's gorgeous. But there was always something a little bit off, and I'm paraphrasing, that kind of made her like a pinup. But like there was always something kind of edgy and erotic about her, and I don't know. Like I find her transfixing.
Do you want to tell us your 5 favorite Gena Rowlands movies?
I had Faces down there from 1968, kind of not Cassavetes' first film, which is Shadows, which she's not in. But I think the first film they did together where he directed her was this, because I think she co-stars with him in A Child Is Waiting with Judy Garland, which I know you did watch with me.
Are you saying that number 5 is Faces?
It's Faces, but
Okay.
should be tied with Gloria, because I love her in Gloria. Anyway, number 4 is Love Streams from 1984. I highly recommend anybody watch this. It's weird because Cassavetes and Rowlands play brother and sister, which is kind of gives it a really odd energy. And I love the end of the film, which is set during this torrential downpour in LA of all places. But it was made, there's this weird chaotic energy to the film because Cassavetes was, I believe, diagnosed with cancer, and they didn't think that he would live to finish the film. And he did, and he actually lived to make one star in at least one other film before he did die in the 80s. But they're excellent. Number 3 on here I have is the only non-Cassavetes film, but Another Woman, directed by Woody Allen, which I believe is 87. And Gena Rowlands is this woman. Gena Rowlands is this woman playing. She's just this uber bitch, like just this cold woman, and like who's estranged from her children, and she's just going to therapy. And there's another woman in the building played by Mia Farrow who's pregnant, who is, I believe, who's listening to these sessions and kind of being affected in a way vicariously from this woman's therapy sessions. But very interesting film. Number 2, I mean, this is everybody needs to see this film, A Woman Under the Influence, which, I mean,
have I seen it?
No, you haven't, but you need to. Where her kind of mental development is just exceptional. She lost the Oscar to Ellen Burstyn for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, which is a good Scorsese film, and I'm glad Ellen, that's how she got her Oscar. But to me, it's Gena Rowlands. But nobody wanted to show this. Cassavetes was an independent filmmaker. He had to run around with the film under his arm to theaters trying to get them to show this film. Oh. And it was Scorsese who said, I won't allow you to play my film unless you play his.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. And then number 1, I mean, is just such a kooky, weirdo, bizarro film, unclassifiable. But if you like kind of strong, bitchy actresses, it's Opening Night. Like, I don't know, like, it's just such an odd film. And I've actually only seen it once at the Silent Theater when they played it. You know, that was well over a decade ago now. But anyway, yeah, I saw that she died when I was in Switzerland, and they did a nice little tribute to her in the Piazza Grande. But I don't know, it just made me sad. And, you know, recently, because The Notebook, which she's starred in, on Letterboxd, I think that's her most highly rated film, which is really depressing to me, but it's directed by her son, Nick Cassavetes. They had the 20th anniversary of that, and he was speaking about how she's had dementia for a while, which she's playing a character that has that in The Notebook. So, you know, I guess it's time. I don't know. It still made me sad. And, you know, I still remember her last screen credit was she starred opposite Cheyenne Jackson. Is that his name? Six dance lessons in 6 weeks, which is a cornball, terrible film. Well, it was cute seeing her in it, but I remember going to that at the Wilshire Screening Room just to see her, and I remember thinking, like, God, I wonder how much more she'll do, and that was it.
And also, Alain Delon has died?
Alain Delon has died.
And it seems like you're very familiar with this person.
Yes, also like a cornerstone of French cinema in general. Like, my God. Very handsome, kind of cold, austere man who I think I wouldn't align myself with politically at all. But I mean, they're just such a fantastic filmography. I mean, my God. I had to do a top 5 for him too. L'Eclipse, The Eclipse, the second film in Antonioni's thematic isolation, whatever the name is, that trilogy that started with La Ventura. But Eclipse is great. Number 4 is the Renee Clement film Joy House, which he stars opposite Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda is so gorgeous in this film. I think it's like 64. Number 3, I have Mr. Klein, Joseph Losey film, which I think was kind of a daring role for Mr. Delon to play. Number two, I have Purple Noon. He's the first person to play Tom Ripley. Patricia Highsmith, the queer character, although he's not very queer in this, on film. Also Renee Clement. And then my favorite with him is the Jean-Pierre Melville classic, the La Samurai.
Oh, have I seen any of these?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
But I'll have to do a secret film for one of the podcasts for these sometime.
Great.
Hopefully.
Well, goodbye to Gena Rowlands and Alain Delon.
Yeah.
This week's secret film was my choice, and I chose the 2024 American spy action comedy thriller film, The Union, starring Halle Berry, Mark Wahlberg, J.K. Simmons, Mike Coulter. There are a lot of cool people in this.
Yes.
Dana Delaney.
Yes.
Who's the other lady?
Lorraine Bracco.
Yeah.
Doesn't have shit to do.
No. What is this movie about? Mike, a down-to-earth construction worker, is thrust into the world of super spies and secret agents when his high school sweetheart Roxanne recruits him on a high-stakes U.S. intelligence mission. What's your pull quote?
A sloppy cut-and-paste job script tries to overcome its shortcomings by casting A-list leads whose lack of charisma and chemistry makes The Union feel like a septic chimera of a derivative film.
Damn. Mine. Two Oscar winners and a Wahlberg failed to elevate this green screen dream above being a derivative espionage rom-com with an expensive soundtrack and clunky dialogue that feels like it was written, filmed, and edited within the course of 2 weeks.
Oh, wow, look at you.
I did not care for this thing.
The start of your pull quote seems like a recipe for a Wahlburgers menu item.
Yeah, right. Why did I choose this? We were going to actually make a review video for it, but time got away from us with everything that's going on
in the world.
And I will. I just can't not see a Halle Berry movie.
Well, that too, yes, we had all intentions of seeing this timely. I don't care for Mark Wahlberg as a screen presence per se, but he is an Oscar nominee, and there's another Oscar nominee in this, Jackie Earle Haley.
Who did she play?
He.
Oh, he. Sorry.
Don't you recognize he's in the Freddy?
Gender
Freddy
is a
Krueger.
Construct. I'm sorry.
This is true. He's Freddy Krueger in that terrible Nightmare on Elm Street.
He's in this movie?
Yeah, he plays the tech guy. Remember somebody?
Oh, someone even comments he's too old to be the tech guy. Oh my gosh, that was him?
That's him. And he was a child star from Bad News Bears, but he was Oscar nominated, I believe, for Little Children, which is a great film.
He looks better with age.
He does.
Bless him. Wow, this movie is bad.
It's certainly. I don't know what I was expecting. It's the third, I think, the third feature directed by Julian Farino, but he's directed a lot of television. His last feature was called The Oranges in 2011, which I also didn't like. It felt like a really poorly done kind of Claude Berry One Wild Moments-ish type film. And of course, One Wild Moment was famously remade as Blame It on Rio. But this is generic in all possible sense of that word.
Yeah. Yeah. So the story, Netflix has a lot of movies like this, which just all feel like poor facsimiles of like the worst Bond movie and then trying to make it comedic. We've reviewed, like Argyle, Red Notice, so many that are just like these vague agencies that are in the shadows protecting all of mankind against the bad guy.
And of note, Argyle is not a Netflix film, but...
Oh, what was it?
That was a major studio.
That was in theaters?
Yeah, we saw it. We went to see it.
We did?
Yep.
Wow.
Notably, this is the cinematographer is often used by Guy Ritchie, Alan Stewart, but I think it's also a testament to how a lot of these Netflix productions, it doesn't matter kind of your skill set.
Well, my very first note was I hate how this film looks. It has that HD green screen Netflix look. And then the editing, which I understand the director is a known editor.
Well, he's done a lot of television.
But I think started out editing. So I mean, it's so odd that I think, in particular, the way the action sequences are edited, it just feels so like it really does feel like there was no care taken. Like someone got an opportunity and like the leads were available for 2 weeks next month, and so you got to get it all ready to go. And
well, the woman that did edit it, I'm probably gonna butcher her name, Pia Di Caola. She's a BAFTA winner for a film editor. She worked on The Crown and that great little film Tyrannosaur.
wow.
So again, I think that there is an erode. I think a majority of Netflix titles, especially in the past 2 years, in my opinion, seem to erode people's talents.
I guess. But anyway, so this agency is called the Union, and we see that J.K. Simmons is the one running it, and Halle Berry is one of the Union members.
J.K. Simmons is Brennan, which sounds like an old John Wayne movie, and Halle's name is Roxanne Hall.
Anyway, the film opens with JK and his team on a mission, and they get done up, and everyone gets killed except Halle.
Including Mike Coulter, who the casting is automatically sus, because why would he be killed in the first opening moment?
So after that incident, then there's all this speculation that there must be a mole, because how could they know like every little step? Shout out to Bobby Brown. But we move forward and we see that. So the main plot point for this film is that someone has stolen intel. And it's always in a briefcase.
Yeah.
And this intel is basically like all of the personal information for every law enforcement agent in the world, I guess, like secret and not secret. So of course, if someone gets their hands on this, they can do a lot of damage, as the film tells us, because these agents, specifically people for like the CIA and stuff like that, could be targeted. Mm-hmm. So the Union wants to get this intel back, but
a better title would be like Security Breach.
Ugh. So this intel is being sold at like an online secret auction. And for some reason, they feel like they need a nobody, which is what we're told. We need a nobody to help us, because if we use another Union agent, the bad guys will be able to sniff them out. I guess because they have the intel.
Which is kind of the plot of so many movies, including, because I watched it for the first time, that Arnold Schwarzenegger film, Raw Deal.
So Halle Berry is like, I know a nobody. My high school boyfriend, Mark Wahlberg, who lives in Jersey. He's a construction worker, and he's kind of just doing, they make it seem like he's a loser, but it seems like he's enjoying his life. He's hooking up with his 7th grade teacher, Dana Delaney. Yeah. He has a job. He has friends.
Fantastic, by the way.
We're going to get back to her. Okay. But Halle Berry, she drugs and kidnaps him, takes him to London and says, this is what we're doing. We need you to help save the world. There's no discussion of compensation. And he agrees. So we get the ubiquitous training sequence, which we're told usually takes 6 months. Doesn't 6 months seem like a short amount of time to make someone a super spy?
It's also, how long is basic training?
Right, like it just seems so odd. But but we're told that usually to be a super secret Union spy, training takes 6 months, but we're going to truncate it to 2 weeks, which again I find funny because this film feels like it should have taken 6 months and they took 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. He goes through the training and then they're off. So his main mission is to get access to the device that would allow them to bid on the auction. Mm-hmm. And once they have that device, they can locate the intel. But of course, things don't go very smoothly because they lose the first device. So
no, it gets damaged.
Or it gets damaged like in water or something. So they have to, their plan is to find someone else who would have the device and steal it from them, which they do. Uh-huh. They do get the intel, but there is a twist, which is that Nick, played by
Nick Faraday.
So Halle Berry's husband who died, Nick, played by Mike Coulter.
Notably, they're separated right now, okay?
He didn't die, and he's the mole. Mm-hmm. Which, like you said, you can predict because the casting of him seems odd to have him die right away. Mm-hmm. So, of course, he's gone bad because he wants money. And so the final act of the film is Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg trying to stop Mike Coulter. And they do. They kill his ass. And all's well that ends well. The film ends with Mark Wahlberg as like at a wedding. He's the best man. And Halle Berry just shows up wearing underwear. Like she literally looks like she ran to Asian Provocateur and picked up a corset and some garter belts and showed up to this wedding. And there's this through line that maybe we know they used to be romantic.
Yeah.
And then they stopped because, which we can also talk about, but we get the sense that they broke up because there were some racial issues. And then throughout the film, it's hinted at that maybe they would be interested in rekindling their romance.
But very vaguely.
It's very vague and not very interesting. And at the very end, they're at this wedding canoodling. And canoodling meaning like they're sitting at the same table looking at each other. They never kiss or hug or anything. And that's the end of the movie.
And they waste this fantastic Natalie Cole song.
The budget on the soundtrack was probably more than the budget for the CGI. Because, it just feels so gimmicky to make these glossy, stupid, like action movies that Netflix does with these notable people, and then they spend all this money on songs we recognize to invoke a feeling, right?
Right.
And it's just like, why not just make a better movie?
Yeah.
I don't need take the $800,000 you spent on the music and put that towards like, I don't know, some better lighting and a better script writer. I don't know.
And it said that one of the screenwriters, David Guggenheim, I mean, he's written several things that I don't love, but including that Christmas Chronicles, Kurt Russell Santa movie, and the very boring Safe House with Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, let me just start going through my notes. This movie feels like, I wrote down, it feels like the espionage version of It Ends With Us.
Oh, God.
Because in that movie, I thought, oh, these characters look like that. Like their ages would indicate that they're in their early 40s, not their 20s. And then the way that Hallie and Mark are reuniting feels like how Lily and Atlas reunite in It Ends With Us.
Well, but also I think it's distracting the references we get about their ages. And even the musical references, because during their first reunion, they're bonding over a Bruce Springsteen song. It's like if you're in your early 40s, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, Hallie and Mark can pull off being in their early mid 40s, so that's not my complaint. But I agree, it's like their references and would indicate that like their actual ages, which are like 10 years advanced. So that's felt odd.
Yeah.
Okay. The first scene where we see JK's team get taken down one by one, that was laughable because this is supposed to be like a highly trained, well, maybe not highly trained because they only get 6 months training, but this is like a secret a la the Beekeeper.
Yeah, this is sub Beekeeper.
But it's very sub Beekeeper. So you have this team of like highly trained secret super spies, and they're running around like when you pull open, like when you lift up a box and a bunch of cockroaches scatter, and then they're getting plucked off one by one by like whomever is after them is like, they must have snipers everywhere because
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
It opens with Halle Berry looking so smug and self-satisfied from afar as this operation is going on.
Standing in like a window, and the way she's lit, it looked, I mean, I was giggling.
It looks stupid. But then, so the van blows up because they're in Trieste, right?
Yeah.
And as they're about to extract this CIA agent who's hiding in this hotel. And then they're like, Halle Berry screams, "Go out the back way." Well, wouldn't the people that blew up the van also have eyes on the back? The only other entrance out. There's
no care taken to the writing. If you told me that this script was written on a Sunday afternoon and then they left it the way it was, I'd believe it.
If you told me this script was written by Tyler Perry, I'd be like, well, yeah.
I mean, actually.
About as much care and research was taken.
Okay, I was debating on whether or not I wanted to do this, but I decided on yes, that Halle Berry is going on my worst hair list for this character because, well, two things. I I mean, everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of blonde hair, only because it always looks so over processed. Generally, it looks very over processed, and on her character, that blonde hair on the top of her head just looks dead and limp.
Every time you see her from an angle, it looks like it just need like somebody needs to swoop in there and just shave it off, like parts of a dead plant.
Then I also am not a fan of like multiple textures. I really don't like that it looks like, well, first of all, it looks like she has an overgrown undercut, but the sides and back of her head are her natural texture, which is curly, but then the hair on top of her head is this straight, limp, dead, blonde ass hair. So I just hate it. But on top of that, it doesn't make sense for the character if she's supposed to be this discreet, stealthy person.
She's so conspicuous.
What? Yeah. I mean, how could she stand out more? Unless it was like electric blue. Like, I don't even know how.
It almost looks like I wanted to play Storm one more time, and this is what my hair would have looked like.
Yeah, I hate to do it, but I can't not say how much I didn't like her hair.
There's actually a reference in the end where because Mike Holder holds her hostage at one point, and Mark Wahlberg's supposed to take a shot and kill Coulter, and she's like, "Why didn't you take that shot?" And he goes, "Well, I didn't want to mess up your hair."
Is that what he said?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, he said that. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, he was trying to be cute.
He was trying to be cute, but it's like, ooh, with that hair, that. I think they do Halle Berry kind of somebody a little smarter in some departments of this film should have recognized that Halle Berry and her Catwoman history. They could have had her running around on these rooftops like Musadora in this like sexy cat suit, like in Les Vampires.
I think they should have styled her like executive realness, like a really like fierce tailored suit with maybe like a corset top underneath. And then because her character is really not supposed to be, it seems like she's originally more like supervising the action.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like she should be really in like fierce high heels, but then when she has to get into action, she can like rip off her jacket and run. I feel like that would have been more appropriate with like a really, my other issue is like, it's been a long time since I've seen, and someone can correct me, but I don't recall loving Halle's hair in a movie since, well, maybe Dark Tide, 2014, 2012.
Yeah, she looked good in that.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the last, so it's been over 10 years since I thought her hair looked great in a movie.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, give her a slick, pussycat style haircut and a fierce suit to wear. Like, make her seem strong, and she just looks like she's styled. It looks very dated. It's very like so I was going to say Swordfish. It's very early 2000s. And then she's a woman of a particular age, and they have her dressed like an angsty, like she looks like from those late 90s movies about hackers, like the one who would be hacking the computer. That's how she's dressed to be.
Yeah, it does. In fact, it doesn't make any sense. And she looked crazy in this movie too, but her look in the Kingsman sequel probably would have made more sense.
Speaking of this, or in the same vein, so Dana Delaney plays Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry's 7th grade teacher, which would indicate that she is how much older than them? Maybe like
at least 10 years older to be in that. You'd like to, if she was just starting out as a teacher.
Right. So I thought she looked, I mean, I had to look up her age because I thought she looked younger than the two of them.
Well, she's not trying to look younger. That's why.
She looks fabulous. Dana Delaney is 68 right now. Mm-hmm. And I thought she was younger than Halle Berry because at the end, at the wedding, Halle Berry sees Dana Delaney at the party. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, is that Mrs. blah, blah, blah?" And she waves at her like, "Hey, Mrs." Mm-hmm. I in that particular scene, because of how Halle's styled and the way it's lit, it wasn't very flattering. I thought that Dana Delaney looked younger than Halle Berry.
Well, it's because they're trying too hard. Whenever anybody's trying to look younger than they are, you can usually always tell, and that's a key moment there.
In every scene J.K. Simmons is in, he seems like he's just reminding himself that he's doing this for the paycheck and to work with these two people because
he has nothing to do with it.
No. Um, the just the entire premise of like we need a she Halle Berry tells Mark when he says why me, she says we need a nobody, and then she tells him it's only like this one gig, this one day. So you're gonna basically like ruin my life back home because I have a job. So now I'm probably gonna get fired from my job. You're not talking to me about like I'm certainly not gonna make enough money to retire off this, and I'll probably get killed.
Which is ironic with the title, the union. Like you were messing up my gig back home, and I'm planning a bachelor party, and also this generic ass title. How many films have you seen? Like this is very Richard Stark / Westlake, The Outfit. You know, like these clandestine government operations that have these stupid names.
The okay, I want to talk about the humor in this film because it is
What humor?
right. So it's classified as a comedy as well, and I can see why because they're trying. But the problem is you have like three styles of humor. I can't even say they're fighting because they don't have enough strength to like throw a punch. But you have Mark purely doing dad jokes.
None of the punchline. There's no build up to the punchline.
No, they're just randomly. He just spits out some dad joke. Then Hallie is playing it like like kind of sassy and it gets increasingly more so as the film goes on to a point at the end where I'm like, oh, I wish she would have had this energy in the beginning. And when I say energy, I don't think it works that well by the final chase scene. She seems to have a little more like, I guess I'd use the word like flavor or sassiness, but it's still not at a level I really liked. But she's doing that, so I guess that's supposed to elicit a smirk. And then J.K. Simmons is doing that sort of like dry thing he does,
which I guess
probably works the best.
I guess works the best for the energy of this film, but he doesn't. Then he doesn't get any good lines,
right? So then you have these three very different styles of comedy in the same bland soup, but not at an intensity that serves any purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, speaking of the comedy aspect, there is a female operative, this Asian lady.
Alice Lee.
Oh my God. I thought that character was OTT. When we first meet her, she's pretending to be a doctor, or maybe she is a doctor, examining Mark Wahlberg. And at one point, she asks him, like, how many fingers can we fit into your ass? Mm-hmm. Like, what are we doing right now?
And then she's doing some hacking work, which there are so many films right now which have these young, angsty women playing hackers. Yeah, she and we'll probably speak more on this. Well, I think we need to come back to they have this. They're trying very hard to inject some kind of culturally appropriate subtext.
Well, let's talk about it now. So we're told, like, because it seems like Hallie and Mark like are cool. Mm-hmm. So then you wonder, like, well, what? Okay, they haven't seen each other in 25 years. Mm-hmm. So they after high school, they stopped being boyfriend and girlfriend.
She went to college.
Because she went to college. But then it's like, they seem like they get along really well. And like, it's not like he did anything bad to her. So why did they break up? It's intimated that his parents weren't okay with him dating a black girl at the time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then they just kind of drop it. And I almost feel like, well, I do feel that kind of thing, if you're not going to do anything with it, you might as well leave it alone.
I agree.
Why bring it up?
Right, because then it brings all these other things into question. Like, and you did disagree with me on this, but I think that it opens the door to these weird energies. Like, why is Mike Coulter, like the dark-skinned black man, the villain, and when is he going to get out of "I'm your terrible raggedy ex" jail, like he was with
this movie is so unserious and poorly written that I can't even give it that. I see what you're saying, and maybe in a more intentional movie I would see that.
I agree, it's not intentional, but like something I always bring up and harp on, reception theory. Again, I don't like Mark Wahlberg, and I don't mean to continue punishing for one thing, but when he threw. There were things that he did in his past that were very racially charged.
I believe he made poor choices that he today
would not do it, has
truly,
apologized for
yep,
it.
truly feels like they're wrong. So I don't hold, like, I
But
don't think about that when I think about him.
but it's still in the background. It's like, wouldn't I feel like, I don't know, if I were him, I'd be like, hey, can we punch up the script to be a little more meaningful in some regards? I don't
Also,
know.
he had a full hip hop career, and I just find it hard to think that people could think that he like hates black people when he appropriated black. Like, I mean, he clearly.
Well,
I'm not. I mean, it's not a. They don't always equate, but I don't hold that against Mark Wahlberg, and I definitely would prefer that. It was suggested that what if like her husband were more similar to Mark Wahlberg to show that she still had feelings for him, and I kind of like that her husband was not like Mark Wahlberg to show that she doesn't have a type.
because if they did, they would have to address it, which they aren't doing.
I just think that the film makes the mistake of even bringing, like, that's a very serious topic. Like, these two people broke up because of like racial. I mean, that's pretty heavy to then
like Spike Lee's Jungle Fever trauma.
in this stupid rom-com espionage action movie. But speaking of action, these action sequences I just think are so subpar. It's clear. I mean, the way they're edited is so clunky. It's very clear when we're looking at a stunt double versus the actual talent on a green screen, and I'm kind of shocked.
I'm not shocked.
Because we were talking earlier, and I think a big disappointment I currently have now that I'm a professional film critic is that I think when I was younger, or even today, when we're flipping through whatever streaming platform and looking at films, if I see, like, if you look at a film that's from like 97 and it stars, let's say, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I've never seen it, I can safely assume that that film's going to have a certain quality because of who's in it. Like, if Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the film in the 90s, it's definitely going to have a budget behind it. It's definitely going to have, it's going to be catered towards him. Not unlike how I feel about Tom Cruise, even today. If Tom Cruise is in a movie, doesn't matter how you feel about him, that movie is going to have like top production.
Mm-hmm.
The script's going to be tailored to his talents. So his characterizations are always going to be very effective. So whatever happened to stars being like having a direct correlation with quality? Because nowadays you can't trust the shit. Halle Berry is an A-list actor with an Academy Award, and it does not guarantee that she's going to be in a film that's even satisfactory.
I don't think she chooses well for herself either, because I think she could be in a lot more daring, interesting things. But yes, I think it's much more difficult for a celebrity or an actor to curate a filmography.
But Mark Wahlberg, didn't we just review? He was in something earlier this year that was similar, like an action film.
He's in a lot of generic action film shit.
But it was on Netflix, and it was like, what was that
Not
movie?
that one with Tom Hollander.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Which I didn't see.
Where it's like, oh, is it the one where they travel? It's like a sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. But yeah, even like Mark Wahlberg is an A-list actor. And him...
Are you thinking of Uncharted?
Is that what I'm thinking of? Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's just like even him, it doesn't... Like, we're not guaranteed that it's going to be a quality film.
No, well, remember that terrible one he did called Infinite?
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
I think that's what I was thinking of.
Antoine Fuqua.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrible. So yeah, they've both done infinitely worse things, but I don't know. It's just, did anyone read the script and be like, yeah, that's really interesting or intriguing in any kind of way?
Things escalate so quickly because after they are successful in getting the intel, all of a sudden the union headquarters are in London in this huge high rise that looks like the Needle in Seattle. And then that just gets blown up, just out of nowhere. It just gets blown up. And then we have the CIA, the guy who's head of the CIA. Did you recognize him? The one who they said looked like Gary Oldman.
Oh yeah, there's that Gary Oldman joke that has no buildup. Like, why is that even a thing?
He's part of the bidding process. So you have like the union along with the CIA, and they're all present while the tech guy, Freddy Krueger, is working on trying to locate where the intel is. And so J.K. Simmons is the one bidding because he's trying to keep it going long enough for them to do location. And the CIA guy like takes over and like accidentally bids like double what they intended, like 550 million. that was such a poor attempt at comedy. And I feel like that moment summed up the entire film for me.
Yes.
It's just haphazard and dumb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When Nick, Mike Coulter's character, pops back up, and of course his wife Halle Berry's like, I thought you were dead. And he's like, well, the current carried me to the ocean and I got myself to a doctor. These were the words this character said. Wasn't this the dialogue was so clunky?
The dialogue's very bad. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nick has double crossed Hallie and made it seem like she and Mark and J.K. Simmons were trying to steal the intel. So now they're stuck in London because everyone's looking for them. So they have to figure out a way to get out of there. How do they get out of there? Mark, the construction worker, has a buddy who I guess works at Newark Airport in the cargo section, like where they load up the FedEx planes.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow this doofy guy has connections at Heathrow that can get Hallie and Mark onto a cargo plane back to the U.S. How is that even possible?
That's so stupid.
How is that even?
And kind of demeaning.
This
anybody that works anywhere.
My doctor can't even give me a timely referral to another specialist, but somehow this doofy cargo guy is able to commission like a secret flight out of a different airport.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on top of all the other laughably stupid things, that one was probably the one that really sealed the deal for me. Then we get a scene because JK has been apprehended by the CIA. So they have him in like an interrogation room, looking like they're about to waterboard him. And then he gets his big monologue where he's explaining what will happen if this intel gets into the wrong hands. And that little monologue was so, I was just embarrassed for J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Especially after watching something. What's the movie we reviewed for Patreon?
Where he won his Oscar for Whiplash?
Whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the man who was in Whiplash is now sitting in this dumbass movie trying to explain like if a Turkish agent is taking her kids to soccer practice or
an old flame who works in Istanbul.
And then her minivan blows up. Like, what are we talking about?
The white CIA agent is played by Stephen Campbell Moore, but even he has the Gary Oldman reference for whatever reason has some other line that blah 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 Pyongyang.
Okay. Then we have this character named Juliet.
Oh yes,
who
Jessica DeGao or something.
I don't even fully understand her character because she's familiar with the union and kind of helps them. Like she's like a middle person.
Yes.
But then we find out that she's actually working with Nick, Mike Coulter's character, and they're in a relationship. So then that's kind of complicating things and making Halle Berry feel away. But she finally corners her ex, Nick,
mm-hmm.
with Juliet at a cafe where they're trying to sell the intel, and she takes it.
Just gun out in the middle of this square.
And then all of a sudden, Juliet stands up and goes, you know what? It's not worth it. Hallie, girl, you know where to find me because we make a good team. And then she just walks off with her people. Mm-hmm. I was so confused by that. Juliet turned her back on Nick in an instant. Like, was she in cahoots with Hallie? Or she's just a flip-flopper?
I guess.
And if she's a flip-flopper, why would the union work with her like that? I thought that character was so poorly written. Especially at the moment where she just gets up and walks away and then tells Hallie, like, I'm sure you'll call me because we work, like we can work together.
I know, but it's like, again, I'm sure Mike Coulter took this role because of the people he gets to work with, but it's like, you come across looking
so dumb.
Like everybody's the put him in the bag, he's my trash.
The dumbest part of this movie as far as the action sequences go is Mark Wahlberg has a hold of the intel, like the briefcase, and he's running down the streets of wherever they are, Vienna, I don't know.
But well, see, that's the other thing. They're in some actually interesting places like Istria, which is this peninsula that 3 different countries own. I don't know.
But Mark's running with the briefcase, flailing about. And at one point, there's a bad guy on a motorcycle. Did you notice this? Following Mark, and he's like grabbing him.
Yeah.
Not unlike when I'm eating on the couch and the cat comes and like touches my shoulder.
Yes. Because the guy's the one pursuing him is in that yellow motorcycle.
Yes. Yeah. This is the level of action we're getting. Mm-hmm. Then we get this final car chase scene which is 3 cars. You have the man who I think is supposed to be like an Iranian bad guy.
Oh yeah, yes, we forgot to mention him. There's a third party
trying to buy the intel. Yes. We have him driving a BMW with Mark Wahlberg in the trunk. We have Mike Coulter driving a purple Porsche he stole from some dandy gentleman. And then we have Halle Berry driving some Ford Focus, yellow Ford Focus. That chase scene was...
So Mark Wahlberg's in the trunk and Halle Berry's on the phone with him.
Oh my God, can we talk about that?
He's like, I'm in a trunk. And then she hits the back of the car. He's in the trunk. And she's like, oh, that trunk? Come on.
But even the fact that they're on the phone, like they're talking like they're on Bluetooth, but they're not. Like they're on speaker. At one point, he drives past her and says something to her, and she hears him like... You're driving at a high rate of speed in these loud cars with like the doors ripped off, and they're just having conversations as they drive by. When
she's like, remember the trust exercise?
I have to say, Hobbs and Shaw, that final like 20-minute chase scene.
Fast and Furious presents
Hobbs
and Shaw.
That's how you do a ridiculous car chase sequence.
Well, those two, Statham and Dwayne The Rock Hudson, have more chemistry than these two.
Dwayne The Rock Hudson. But no, well, yes, true. But I'm saying, like, if you're going to, because what are some examples of top-notch car, like The Italian Job or...
Oh, well.
You know what I mean? Like
the original two, French Connection.
Yes. Yeah, the French... movies like that, I mean, those are like...
Or what with White Steve McQueen, Bullet. I mean,
but clearly this movie is not giving us that level. But then it's also not giving us Hobbs and Shaw level because the production is not there.
You never saw Will Smith in Ang Lee's Gemini Man, but the chase sequences in that, I remember being very impressed by.
It's just kind of embarrassing. Like, why even have this long chase sequence that just looks so... The sound editing, oh my God, there are you know how I've posted there's some lady, I think her name is like Lisa Farts, and she takes videos of artists performing. I like her J-Lo videos where she'll remove the sound and then she's just going like, yeah.
Did she also do Nicole Kidman at the Oscars?
Yes. Okay. This chase sequence feels like someone did that to it because the screeching of the tires, it's like when Halle's driving, it's like, like, wow, okay. Okay, all I have to say is the ending. I'm so confused at this wedding because we learn in the beginning that Mark's best friend is getting married. He's the best man. He has to plan a party. And then we never get back to that until the very end when he's giving his best man speech. But Halle Berry shows up and Mark acts like he's surprised. So did he not invite her? And then why did she show up to this wedding dressed in her lingerie draws? I just don't know why this woman...
And still know it. Why is that hair still on her head?
Like, and why you couldn't even like curl that shit up for the wedding? Like, I hated how she looked in that. I hated her styling the entire film, but I thought that it was kind of embarrassing that she showed up to these people's wedding dressed like that.
And then J.K. Simmons shows up to be like, welcome to the union.
Yeah, he officially gives Mark Wahlberg a job. Okay.
I'll give you 3 days off and I need you in wherever.
During the end credits, we get pictures of a young Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg. And then we get a couple of photographs of them together during his Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch days. Mm-hmm. And I have to say,
those were cute pictures.
It made me emotional in the same way the ending of Deadpool
versus
Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine,
yeah, I mean, it's, pictures always make me emotional, like old pictures. But I just thought, two kind of like iconic people, you get them together for the first time since when? And then this is the kind of movie you make?
Yeah.
They could have really been in something a lot of fun, provocative, interesting, and this was not it.
I haven't watched any press on this film, but I can already hear Halle Berry saying, like, she's wanted to work with Mark for years, blah, 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 and this was the perfect project. I'm like, okay.
What would you give the union?
Oh, 1. I mean, when either of these people pass and there are montages done of their work, is the union going to come up in any clips?
Like, it's so forgettable.
It's so forgettable in every way.
Forgettable. I would give it 1.5 out of 5. I will say, I mean, I think it's bad, but it's not languid at any point. Although I did almost fall asleep and had to stop the movie and then restart it later. But it it does clip along in a nonsensical way. But I mean, it isn't completely boring. So I guess I'll give it the extra half a point for that. But yeah, this is a bad movie, and I'm embarrassed mainly for Halle Berry.
Well, and Lorraine Bracco, and there are several other people we didn't mention, like Adewale Akinnuoye Egbaje has Pfeiffer. What's he doing? No.
Anyway, well, what do we have coming this week? Well, as soon as we end this portion of the podcast, because we're recording this
out of sequence.
Yeah, the union recording we're recording before the opening of the podcast, because as soon as I hit stop, I'm going to get dressed so we can go see Alien Romulus. So y'all can stop asking about where's our review for Alien Romulus.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come out today, Sunday. And then this coming week, we're seeing a few things.
Yeah, there's
The Front Room.
The Front Room, The Crow.
Blink Twice. Well, you know I like Pennywise, so that's the only reason I'm interested in The Crow.
Lee Daniels, The Deliverance.
Oh my God. The thing I'm most excited for is The Deliverance, which we're watching this afternoon.
Yeah, and Strange Darling sounds kind of interesting.
I don't know what that is. But Blink Twice looked interesting.
John Woo's remake of The Killer, which has gotten no fanfare. Yeah.
Well, that's all I have. Anything else from you?
Nope.
All right. Ta-ta.